To be very clear, I liked this movie. Like it. Not love it, but I do like it. Now, I believe if you're a wrestling fan, this movie does a lot more for you than the average moviegoer. There's something to be said about how they introduce different tropes of wrestling to the audience, kind of spoon-feeding them information on how wrestling works, babyface, heels, the finishes, the old Carney world, the NWA, and how promoters worked. Now, knowledgeable wrestling fans, like me, probably already know all of this, and they'll get more entertainment, not necessarily from the information we're being given, but more or less watching how the old school territories operated. Because we always hear these stories, but there's not really many examples of actual territories fighting amongst each other. People actually beating the crap out of each other because my guy is going to beat your guy. And what's the old saying? Hey, if they don't want to do business, we'll do business for them. Which you actually see that. The idea of Mildred Burke shooting on Toni Russell, aka Timeless Toni Storm, by beating her hard way, and a promoter beating the hell out of another promoter, that's actually pretty accurate to the time. Now, this film covers the humble life of Mildred Burke, from being a single mother working at a diner to wanting to become an entertainer to wanting to become an athlete to wanting to become a professional wrestler. The idea of Miss Burke having to perform in carnivals is actually pretty spot on for the time, considering that women's wrestling in any capacity, fixed or otherwise, was outlawed. And it's not so much that it's fixed, it's how do I say this? It's scripted, right? It's theater with a stunt show. She does end up having to marry her trainer and somewhat partner, Billy Wolf. Now, this is where I think a lot of people will start to find their outrage. She ends up marrying Billy, not so much out of love, although I think she did care about him, but he cheated on her well before they ever got married, but to guarantee her a spot in the business. You see, at the time, women weren't really in the business aspect of wrestling, or in most Americana life. I mean, hell, it wasn't until 1974 that a woman could even have her own bank account and credit card. It was probably mostly cash at that point. Now, as time passes, Mildred gets more and more over with the fans, pushing for women's wrestling to continue to grow, pushing the boundaries, and actually fighting against segregation. They actually had the first colored women's wrestlers in this promotion. It's an empire built on her shoulders, but it's very nearly taken away. When Billy files for divorce from Mildred, she's left with almost nothing, except for the most valuable thing, her name. She's able to then build a promotion around herself and her roster of friends. In the end, she is able to keep her championship in a shoot altercation with Billy's biggest star, June Byers, played by Camille. Now, how accurate is this film? Now, I'll be honest, it's not like The Iron Claw. In The Iron Claw, I kind of knew everything going in. I knew the whole story. I was in it for the ride. But I'm not very familiar with Mildred Burke and her story. I know there are some historical inaccuracies, but I will say this. They get a lot of the worst parts about the business right. The way bookers and promoters exploited talent, particularly female talent. There's a scene in this where Gladys Gildem, who didn't die in real life, by the way, that may be the most reaching thing in the film. She says that she feels like she has to keep Billy happy to keep her spot in the roster. That wasn't unheard of. There's also a very controversial figure technically in this film. Mickie James, who is not controversial, she's awesome. But there's a character that she plays called Fabulous Moolah. The Fabulous Moolah is noted for a variety of things. But most importantly, she may have been a pioneer in women's pro wrestling. However, she also allegedly pimped out her wrestlers and took massive cuts of their fees. Wrestlers were forced to pay her exorbitant amounts of money to train at her camp. You had to rent out a room on her area and pay utilities. Essentially, she owned all your money. She kept all your money for you. Now, you can argue, well, then just don't go train with her. But she basically had a monopoly on women's wrestling. Either you got trained by her or no one would work with you. Because if they took you, well, then Fabulous Moolah wouldn't let any of her girls go wrestle. So it was not the best time. Actually, a pretty bad time. And I think, if anything, that might be the one shortcoming in the film. Not so much to talk about Fabulous Moolah, but more to go into the struggles that women had in dealing with this. Now, if this film had come out today, like a 2020 wrestling film movie, it may ring hollow or untrue or pandering, but in this case, no. This is accurate. It was dark. And I kind of wish that they had played with their darker themes. Now, we do explore Mildred when she was cornered and how she fought back from the brink. How she became the first $1 million athlete in the history of professional sports. But if I could change anything about this film, it would be about them going more in depth as far as what she did to break down those barriers. Her dealing with the financial and business aspect. And to be quite frank, the sexism. Do they have it in the film? Yes, but it's a very light touch. I was plain to see in this film, it was low budget. That's not an insult, that's just an observation. You can see the limitations of what they were able to do. Director Ash Adamson, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, makes the most of every chance he has to showcase the art of professional wrestling, and I respect him for it. A number of actual wrestlers appear in small roles throughout the film: Tony Storm, Camille, Naomi, Mickie James, and Dr. Britt Baker, DDM. We even get a minor glimpse of Gorgeous George, a man way ahead of his time. Ultimately, it's a good film, and I would recommend it to most people, whether or not you are a wrestling fan. It's a positive film and a triumphant story. Legitimately a 6 out of 10. It's a good movie. It's just, I feel like there were some more themes that could have been explored, but that's just me. What did you think of The Queen of the Ring? Let me know down below. We'd really appreciate it, and we'll catch y'all next time. We'll be seeing you, everybody.